Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, class. So I don't know what time you're going to play and watch this video, but I'm hoping that despite the typhoon, you are all well and safe at home. So I'd like to welcome you to our topic for today, and that has something to do with week 4. So we have already surpassed different levels, and we're now proceeding to level 4, or the week 4 of our discussion. To proceed, let us start with this activity. Let's play together. And this is called fact or bluff. Actually, you are going to play this using the Quizzes app. However, because of the situation right now, I'm just going to assign to you this Quizzes game in the asynchronous class using the Google Classroom. Okay? Now, moving on, when you go to this site, you're going to click the link that I'll be posting in the Google Classroom. Then you're going to enter using the given code. And that is for the synchronous class. Okay? Because we cannot have the synchronous class right now because of the typhoon Quinta. Okay? Let us proceed with our lesson. Now, class, when you go to this site, join myquiz.com, and when you enter the code, okay, what is the purpose of the given code? What was the purpose of the given code? If ever you'll be given a code for you to join the game. Think about it. What do you think? The answer is access. You're given an access to join the particular game, right? Now, let's try to have a recap of our last week's viewing assessment. So you were asked to watch a short summary of The Little Prince in a YouTube video. Now, if you still recall, the little prince loves the rose very much and is happy to satisfy her requests. He waters her, covers her with a glass globe at night, and puts up a screen to protect her from the wind. Now, in this part of the story, the prince asked, "What must I do to tame you?" "You must be very patient," replied the fox. "First, you will sit down at a little distance from me like that in the grass. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings, but you will sit a little closer to me every day." Now, with the actions made by the little prince in making the rose grow and taming the fox, we can conclude that his ways are, what do you think? It starts with letter E, ends with letter E. Then it has another E as the fourth letter. And then we have an I. Are you trying to make a guess? If you have read in advance the module for week 4, then you can get the answer. So a while ago, we have the word access. Now this time, we have the word, you're guessing it right, it's the word effective. So we can conclude that his ways are effective because he was able to make the rose grow and he was able to be tamed by the fox. Okay? Now, in the previous lesson, we also had the famous quotation. Who do you think said these words? "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly." What is essential? is invisible to the eye. I know you have heard the lyrics of the song. What does the fox say? Ten, 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 ten. Okay, so it's actually the fox who shared this piece of wisdom to the little prince, because he wanted the little prince to understand that the most important thing in life is something that you really cannot hold at the palm of your hands. It is what you can feel. Okay, because the fox made the prince realize that even if he already discovered that the rose is not the only rose in the world, and there are other thousands of roses in the world, it is the time that she had with the little prince. It's the time that the little prince spent and the connection that they had made together that really mattered. Okay, so that's why it is only with the heart that one can see rightly, because what is essential is invisible to the eye. So that is one of the themes depicted in the story The Little Prince. Now, for this week, because of the keywords that I presented, the week 4 is actually about the sources of information, accessibility, and effectiveness. If you still remember, on week 1, we have discussed about the different types of sources of information and the 6 characteristics that can be attributed to the sources of information. This time, we're going to focus on accessibility and effectiveness. So let's proceed. Because this week, you are expected to identify sources of information, define accessibility and effectiveness, recognize, compare, and contrast contents of materials viewed from various sources. And you'll be able to achieve all these goals in watching this video, and at the same time in answering the different tasks in the asynchronous time. And I hope you're going to follow the schedule. But if not, because of the internet connection challenges attributed to the typhoon Quinta, then I hope you can still manage your time wisely. All right? Now, let me present to you this infographics. This is also found in your module. It's all about flu, symptoms, and remedy. So it shows here fever, headache, cough, or sore throat, muscle aches, wash hands, use tissue, drink more water, use mask. Using the given picture, let us try to answer the following questions. First, what information can be provided by the said picture? I'm giving you time to think about it. So very straightforward or explicit in the infographic. These are all about flu symptoms and remedy. Okay. Number 2, which sources or references can you use to find other information about the issue or topic presented? What do you think? So based on the other sources of information that we've discussed previously in the first week of our discussion, you can say that we can get it from an online website. It can be taken from a science book or textbook discussing flu. And you can also get it from a magazine or a newspaper, or even from a YouTube video or other videos present in other websites. Okay, so those are the other references that you can use. But the question is, for number 3, let's go back. Will you easily believe in the information presented? Explain. Think about it. So probably you could say that it's hard to believe it because there's no reference given. Is it an official data coming from a certain group of organization that is reliable and that is an expert about flu and other diseases? So that's something that you can question about this infographics. Number 4, is the information accessible and effective? So we need to think about it. Is it accessible? If this came from an online website, probably we could say that it's accessible. If you type in Google or any other search engine the word flu symptoms and remedy, maybe this one will pop out among those given sources. Or if this came from a newspaper or a magazine, we can say that it can be accessible. But there are other means that we can say that something is accessible, and you'll find it out later in our discussion. How about effective? When you say effective, what do you think? Is this infographics effective? Was it able to give the right information with the right impact, with enough impact for it to really send its message across to the audience? So that's really something that you have to think about. Now, let's discuss again the sources of information. When you say primary sources, what do you think it is? Yes, that is correct. When you say primary, we're talking about sources of information that are taken originally from its source. So it's a first-hand information wherein the owner of the information is also the one who conceptualized about it and witnessed a certain event. Second is secondary. What do you mean by secondary sources? When you say secondary, that is right. It is just a commentary, a review, an evaluation of another primary source. And when we say tertiary, try to recall again what tertiary source of information is. That is right. It is a combination of primary and secondary source. So it's a collection of different sources from primary and secondary sources, then it will become a tertiary source of information. Okay, very good, class. You're thinking. Now, let's try to recall the different examples under primary, secondary, and tertiary. For primary documents, we have these: artifacts, photos, audio recordings, diaries, journals, video recordings, manuals, letters, speeches, interviews that are original. At the same time, original documents or manuscripts. While secondary, it refers to the biographical works, evaluation history, or the retold version, news that are not by eyewitnesses, and books that are criticizing. Then for tertiary documents, we have almanacs, bibliography, indexes or indices, directories, database, dictionaries, encyclopedia, and abstracts, among others. So aside from the major sources specified, there are specific information sources that may be used in accessing certain details or information. And these include the following. So for the first one, we have what we call scholarly articles. When you say scholarly articles, these are documents written by experts or scholars discussing results of scholarly works like research. So meaning to say, it is peer-reviewed, technical, and has specific methods. So these were done by experts. So the perfect examples of these are research project and other studies. So they are called scholarly articles. Okay? So, for example, the thesis writing, the dissertations, and the investigatory projects that are done with research work, those are scholarly articles. Okay? So remember all of those. Documents written by experts, peer-reviewed, technical, and has specific methods. For books, this is very common. It's a source providing information in details segregated into chapters or parts. So don't forget that a book has chapters or parts. It's organized. Like in your module, we can say in your learner's material before the pandemic, the English 10 Learner's Manual, or your previous book in English 9, they are separated or divided into different parts or chapters, because we have first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and so on. And for every quarter, there are different lessons. Okay, so they are segregated into parts. So what else? It has synthesized version of information. Synthesized, so it was already summed up. Okay, so that it will be easier for students to use it as a guide in order for them to learn. So the perfect examples of these are textbooks and at the same time the novels, because the novels are also divided into chapters. The next source of information is what we call government documents. And I think we discussed this in passing in the first week. So government documents will refer to the report, census. Like, I don't know if you have experienced some teachers visiting your house and asking how many are you in the family, and asking more data about your family as part of recording the population. That's also considered a census. Policies, data, and statistics issued and published by the government and its attached agencies. So those are examples of government documents. And for that particular source of information, we can have the court proceedings, the laws, the orders, the reports, statistics. Those are examples of government documents. Then we have also the news or magazine articles. What do you mean by that? They are obviously source containing timely, brief, and non-technical explanations of events or commentaries for the general public. Okay? So, they are talking about timely events. So, meaning to say, it's updated. So, that's why it may also contain not only news, but also opinions. Okay? So, examples are the school paper, the major newspaper magazines. Okay? And then we also have reference materials. What do you mean by reference materials? So other than the book, we have other reference materials. These are sources providing answers to questions such as statistics, maps, background information that can also redirect you to additional sources. Because of course, these reference materials will always have a bibliography or a list of references in one of the pages, or at the end, usually at the end of the book or the reference material. So they are factual and at the same time detailed. So examples of these are encyclopedias, atlas, almanac, and dictionary. What else? So as those sources provide significant information, it is your duty to provide and check the information in terms of two criteria. So this is our focus of our discussion today. It's about accessibility and effectiveness. And using the first activity that we've had a while ago, you have seen a certain side about being able to access something and its effectiveness as well. What do you mean by effectiveness? Effectiveness is the degree of being able to achieve the desired result based from their objective or purpose. So meaning to say, a certain source of information has a certain goal. If it can already serve its purpose or goal, then it can become effective. Okay? So usually, if we try to discuss about purposes of an author, usually we can say that it can either persuade, inform, entertain, share feelings or emotions. So those are some of the purposes of an author. So let's try to see what effectiveness is. So look at this example. This is actually from your module. Cybercrime complaints in the Philippines. So from 2013 to 2015. So you can see from this screen, try to figure out, do you think this source possess effectiveness? Does this source possess effectiveness? Is it effective in delivering its goal? So what do you think is the goal of this? Yes, that's correct. It is to inform. So to inform or to give information, and the information given is that to tell us how many crimes or how many cybercrime complaints were given or recorded in the Philippines. So first, we have 366 online scams, 240 online libel, 129 online threats, 127 identity theft, 89 photo and video voyeurism, and 260 others. So, is this effective? We can say it is because it serves its purpose of giving us the number of complaints that are related to cybercrime in the Philippines. Now, let's proceed to accessibility. When you say accessibility, it refers to the quality of being easy to find, obtain, and use. So, do you think this is accessible? Now, if you have found this from an online source, probably we can say that it is easy to find it. Just type in a search engine the particular topic, cybercrime complaints from 2013 to 2015, we can be led to this particular infographics. Now, there are different types of accessibility. So let's start with text accessibility. So it means to say there's an arrangement of words for the words to be easily accessed. And then we have image accessibility. It provides additional information about the text or concept. So going back to the infographics, do you think that this has text accessibility? By its definition, we can access the words from these infographics. So we can say yes. How about image accessibility? Yes, because there are also pictures that can add information about what online scams are, what online libels are, online threats, using those symbols or pictures or images. Now, how about audio accessibility? It provides additional information through listening skills. By listening to a certain source of information, then we can have additional information. And when we say video accessibility, it provides additional information through listening and viewing skills. So not only listening, but also through viewing. So in this particular example, does it have audio accessibility? Of course, there's none because this is only an infographics unless this infographics will be used in a certain multimedia presentation with additional audio. Okay, then that will become audio accessible. How about video accessibility? Of course, it's not also It doesn't also contain video accessibility because, of course, it's just an infographics. The picture, the words, they are not animated, they are not moving, and you cannot hear any sound. So if there's audio and video at the same time, there's already video accessibility because you can already use your listening and viewing skills at the same time. And because this is only viewing per se, but the viewing is just limited to images that are not moving, then we can say that it only contains text and image accessibility. So I hope you're getting what I mean. So aside from this accessibility, it's also essential to review the source of information so that the readers, like us, like you, can first satisfy the expectations of the academic community you are writing for. So if you are writing something like a research, make sure that you review the sources so that that particular source of information will not be against any community standards. Second, show evidence of wide, informed, and relevant reading. So the topic is not limited to only few sources. Then, third is to show that your writing does not rely mainly on personal opinion. So we need to have a varied sources of information so that we could say that the particular write-up that we have done are not only based on our own insights, but we have basis as supporting evidence. The fourth one, show the process by which you have arrived at your own conclusions about the topic, and to enable the reader to understand and evaluate the ideas and information you are presenting. So like in research, you must present how you were able to arrive at a certain conclusion from the first chapters going to the last, in order for you to show the process with the particular sources of information that you have gathered. 5, show your ability to integrate material from a range of sources. So when you say integrate, the way we can combine the material we took from other sources to the idea that we are trying to present. 6, show evidence of an analytical and critical approach to your source material. So how we can try to analyze each part or each detail in a certain source, okay, the different sources of information will help us to do that. Number 7, enable readers to follow up references or perspectives of particular interest to them. So with varied sources of information, we can have other reference. The sources of information can be limitless as long as we're trying to be eager, enthusiastic, to be a wide reader at the same time, to open ourselves to the different sources of information, being able to validate which of those sources can be reliable or not. And number 8, and this is very important, avoid plagiarism. When you say plagiarism, it's presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own, with or without their consent, by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So, in the next quarters that we'll be having for English 10 class, let's try to review how are we going to acknowledge different sources of information so that we can avoid plagiarism. Okay? When you write your essays, make sure you cite your sources, or else that will be considered plagiarism. And I hope you don't use citing sources of information by how you write essays. You're going to cite from my classmate this and that. Okay? So don't tell me, ma'am, I'm not trying to violate this. I'm not really trying to I mean, you are not violating, or you're not exercising plagiarism because you can acknowledge the sources of information as your classmate. That's a different story. When you try to copy others' work as your assignment, it's no longer plagiarism, but it's actually cheating. Okay? Even if you cite the source, yes, you did not commit plagiarism, but you cheated. So I hope you will not do that because, of course, the idea of doing this task actually is for you to learn. Okay? Now, let's proceed to Learning Quest 2. So I want you to match the ideas in column A to column B. First, documents written by experts or scholars discussing results of scholarly works like research. Is it A, B, C, D, or E? That's correct. Because of the keywords scholars and scholarly, we can say that's letter C, scholarly articles. Number 2, reports, censuses, policies, data, and statistics issued and published by the government and its attached agencies. You have another keyword, so that's correct. It's letter E, government documents. Number 3, sources providing answers to questions such as statistics, maps, background information, redirecting or directing to additional sources. Okay, because they provide answers to questions, so you need to refer to them, so that's called letter B, reference materials. And let's have number 4, source containing timely, brief, and non-technical explanations of events or commentaries for the general public. We're talking about timely events and for the general public. So we're dealing with what we call news or magazines. And for number 5, source providing information in details segregated into chapters or parts. Obviously, it is letter A, books. Very good. Now, I want you to read each item carefully and identify what is asked in each item. Let's begin. Number 1, this characteristic of written communication enables one to understand, evaluate, use, and engage with written texts to participate in society, achieve goals, and realize potentials. Okay, because you're able to achieve your goals, this is called, yes, that's right, it's letter A, effectiveness. Number 2, it is described as a degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result. Successful in producing a desired result. Because you have a desired result and you were able to accomplish that, it's called, that's also A, effectiveness. Correct. Number 3, this information accessibility focuses on the visual input presented using an additional description of the information in order for images to be useful for all. Okay? Visual input, then that is letter D, image accessibility. Remember? Visual images. Number 4, this information accessibility deals with scripts about the video which are required for users who cannot access visual or audio media channels. So, but because we're talking about scripts, then it's called letter B. So we're talking about video. Okay? Video accessibility. Number 5, this kind of information source contains the most recent information or opinions. A, B, C, or D. Because we're talking about most recent and they are opinions, we can say it's letter D, news or magazine articles. Number 6, this information source uses technical language and contains bibliography as well as research methods, data, and conclusions. Yes, very good. We're talking about letter A, scholarly articles. Number 7, The use of outside sources of information helps the writer and reader to do the following, except what? Is it A, to gain additional information on the topic? B, to lend credibility to the written material? C, to influence the reader to agree with the writer? And D, to make the writing less persuasive? Obviously, if you try to look at the options, there's only one negative thing about it, and that is letter D, to make the writing less persuasive. Okay, so I hope you've learned something today. And if ever there are things that you need to clarify, you can always send me a private message. You know my Facebook account. At the same time, you can use our group chat for you to clarify on some lessons that you failed to understand. So as long as I have the internet connection, and I can assure you that I'll be very responsive. Okay? For week 4 asynchronous tasks, please check your Google Classroom. If ever you experience brownouts or the loss of internet connection, as soon as you have already everything back to normal, please check your Google Classroom for these asynchronous tasks. So what are the things that you need to do? First, this is optional. It's up to you if you want to have to earn restation points. This is fact or bluff, just for you to figure out how information can be reliable or not, or just to see how you deal with sources of information. I want you to answer the 5-item game in quizzes. So check this out in the Google Classroom. Then answer the 30-item summative test for MELC 2 that was via Google Forms. I'm sorry, MELC 3 via Google Forms. So the previous MELC number. Okay? Then answer the initial task for engagement and assimilation of MELC 4. Oh no, some typographical errors. Okay, via Google Forms. So the initial task for engagement and assimilation for this week, answer it via Google Forms. And of course, accomplish the reflection via Google Forms. So those are the things that you need to do for this week. That will be all. And good day and stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.